Hello, welcome back to the James Rambon Reviews for yet another episode. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the new Blue Beetle movie that came out a couple of weeks ago. I only got around to it recently. So before I get into the review itself, before I get into the plot, obviously I've got to mention the context and how my background on this. So when it comes to Blue Beetle, right, I'm not somebody that's very familiar with it. So going into this movie, it made it very interesting where I was like, oh, I don't really know much about this character, and especially the trailers. I'll give an example of that, right? It's like, I didn't really get, I watched the trailers, I got a bit confused, I didn't know what this was about. So let's dive into my thoughts on the film. So pretty much, right, Blue Beetle is this movie about this guy, this guy and this corporation. They're going after this thing called the Scarab, which is this thing that goes inside the main character's the main character's body and stuff like that, and that's how he turns into the Blue Beetle. He gets to see what his powers has to offer, and the company, from what I remember, is called Co-op, something like that, right? And they're going after him, and then you've got the family involved, and there's all these kind of elements happening, and the story's pretty straightforward: bad guy versus good guy. Must Big corporation must defeat the little man who doesn't deserve anything, kind of thing. So once you dive outside of that kind of stuff, right? So what do I feel about this movie, right? So the greatest thing about this film is that there's a lot of contrasting ideas where you could see some unique ideas and you can see some cliche ideas. So for example, one giant highlight of this movie is like not a lot of movies tend to dive into Latino culture and these ideas around Mexicans and things of that nature, because a lot of superhero movies, if you know about them, is it's mostly in English and they never really do it in like another language. There was Shang-Chi in Chinese, but it's not common, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the unique thing about it. There's reference to Latino culture, and personally, I'm a Scottish person, so it's kind of interesting me getting to see what Latino culture has to offer inside this film. So once you start getting away from these unique kind of different outstanding things, the cliche stuff, right? So one cliche thing about this movie is how it's like this guy gets these powers, he defeats the bad guy, he gets the girl, right? He has Brazilian rizz in this movie, definitely. Like there's this one character called Jennifer, I believe, and he gets her definitely. Like this guy, I think his name is Reyes, Jaime Reyes, whatever. He gets W rizz in this movie. I have to say that, right? Absolute W rizz. So there's all of that, right? And I want to mention the actors as well, because there is an actor called George Lopez in this movie. He's very hilarious. And there's a lot of hilarious lines between all the characters. And in one of the trailers, right, there's this line where George Lopez is like, Batman is a fascist. And without context, you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But in the movie, it makes total sense because this movie is striving for comedy, and there's also a lot of emotional moments, which I need to dabble into, because there is a lot of good, like, strong moments between the family where there's tension, you can feel the emotions rising, all this stuff is happening, the house burns down because of this corporation that wants that scarab off of the main character in the movie. So you get all that kind of stuff. There's also a couple post-credit scenes that you do want to stay around for, because it kind of dabbles in more to the movie itself. So things that have happened in the movie that got referenced kind of dabble further. It goes further. It goes more into the movie itself. So that's my thoughts on it. Right, I'd give Blue Beetle maybe like a 7 out of 10. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the best movie of all time. I've said in a few past reviews that there are movies where it's fun and simple, but they're not the best thing ever, and definitely that's a big, big thing about it. But if I'm going to title this review, I feel like maybe Blue Beetle is generic, but not overtly bad. Maybe something like that. That could work. So it's generic, it has a bit of unique ideas, but it's not that bad. I feel like a lot of people these days, they jump on these bandwagons where they need to make these hate bait videos where like DC generic trash flopping at the box office, because this movie made 80 million. It's been out for only been out for 2 weeks, by the way. 80 million. And I have to say that Blue Beetle isn't like a well-known character, so if this movie bombs at the box office, it kind of totally makes sense, right? I enjoyed the film, right, but not everyone knows this person. This isn't like Spider-Man, so it's not going to make like $800 million at the box office. And if you're expecting this movie to be like Spider-Man and Iron Man and BI, these characters, well, no, definitely that. But his suit kind of resembles some ideas from Iron Man with how he can see through the lenses of the eyes and etc. and stuff like that. So pretty much right. I guess this is my thoughts on Blue Beetle. And definitely did not expect to really enjoy this film. It is not a masterpiece as I've established. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I know this is a 2 week late review, but it's just what it is, man. Sometimes these reviews that we aren't a very, it's not a very consistent show anymore. I kind of just review it whenever I want to. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for another review of the James Allen reviews. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode where I do dabble into the One Piece live action and a few other things. I didn't like do a James Ramblin reviews version of the One Piece live action remake, so there's always that, right? I'll see you, right? I really did go on about this movie indeed, so bye. Remember, Blue Beetle isn't actually that bad. It's generic, has some unique ideas, but definitely not the worst thing ever, so yeah, bye.